So in this session, we'll try to understand what is AWS Code Build and why do we use it, how do we use it, and we let us come across many things. What exactly the AWS Code Build is all about. Okay, in this session, we will be covering the our main agenda or the objective is Code Build and some key features of Code Build. Along with that, why should we use AWS Code Build service? Why don't we use go on with any other CI tools, and how exactly it is going to work, and let us see the similar tool which is equivalent to Code Build and all. Fine. So we'll move on to the object, exactly what we are aiming to. So AWS Code Build is fully managed continuous integration. So as I just previously mentioned in previous video while doing the code commit, so altogether in AWS they're going to call it as developer tools, that is from code, build, pipeline, deploy, managing things. Okay, so altogether in a package they used to call developer tools. So likewise, even this is also a part of developer tool. Fine. So it is completely being managed by the AWS. Only the raw input should be provided. That is our main problem statement or the agenda what we are aimed to. Fine. So rest, provisioning the infrastructure or maintaining the traffic or maintaining the infrastructure, and everything is being taken care by the AWS itself. Fine. That is why we make it as fully managed continuous integration service provided by the AWS. So that is going to, so why should we have code build? So when you once we have written our code or in the Visual Studio we used to go and build or run our code, right? So to get any successful output or whether my problem statement is working as per the expression. So if we want to know all those things, definitely we have to run our code. So likewise here also the code build work exactly same as it is. So we have a source code in our either in our Git or in our code commit, that is AWS commit. Fine. So they both are same, that is GitHub as well as code commit, but it's been completely managed by the AWS service, that is been handled and managed by the Git. Fine. That is the only major difference. Even we can import the Git URL also by integrating into the code build. Fine, even that is going to support it. So why should we use code build? To compile the source code, run the source code, and to perform multiple testings and produce the software packages ready for deployment. Fine. So we going to do this because for fully packaged ready application, right? So once we have the packaged software, either we can create a Docker image and we can pull it and we can either deploy in the Docker or in the Kubernetes. That is up to the organizations. Fine. So it eliminates the need of provisioning, managing, and scaling your build server. So while we are using the Jenkins for building our application, it could be your web application or it could be your Python or it could be your Java based applications. So based on the softwares or the code what we have written and the libraries what we have used on the algorithm, so based on that we require to provide more storage as well as RAM, right, to run Jenkins seamlessly without any lags or getting any timeout error. So optimize all those things, choosing the AWS service called Code Build thus come across all those issues. So since it's completely been handled and managed by the AWS itself, so that is what that it eliminates the need of provisioning. So we don't need to provide any infrastructures, and it's based on the requirement. It's not required to manage or and scale up this. So everything is being handled by the AWS itself. So code build works seamlessly within the AWS systems and integrates with other services to support end-to-end CI/CD pipelines. So, but we do have the disadvantage. That is, code build can be integrated within the AWS ecosystems. So if we are going with Azure or GCP, so only in the within their service we can make use of these things, that is developer tools or the integration things. Fine. So if you wanted to integrate the outside the ecosystem means it's quite possible, but we may have other ways to engage that. Fine. So as of now, we just understand what exactly the code build and how it is going to helpful for our deployment, for testing and running our applications, many more things. Fine. But it is quite restricted to the AWS ecosystem. So always keep remember, since we are using the AWS, it's been restricted to AWS ecosystem solely. Fine. So we just understand what exactly the code build is all about, and we'll try to understand what exactly the deep features of code build, how it is being and all. So fully managed, as I just mentioned, right? So we need not to maintain each and every server or the setting up the environment and all. So everything is being taken care by the AWS itself. That is also a part of the AWS code build, and also the scalable. So when an codes are more, or the libraries are heavier, or it could be a request, or the committing things are more oftenly been happen, so on those cases to process the code build things whatever we have written, so might require additional infrastructure. So it's completely managed by the AWS, so they're going to scale up automatically whenever it required. And customizable build environment, so supports pre-configured environment for popular programming languages and the ability to define custom build environment. So it's completely the customized. So if you have written on Java or Python over it, so it's completely different. So we can install whatever the things we want, and we can build our software. Pay as you go. So charges are based on the compute time used for build without any upfront cost. So whenever we hit the build button, right, in Jenkins, it will keep running for a few seconds or the few minutes, right? So only for those minutes or the seconds we will going to pay the amount. So if you are retaining your complete build as it is, you won't be charged for anything. So when it comes to EC2 and you have deployed Jenkins there, and you are trying to manage the deployment or the build process in Jenkins, in those cases probably you might have to run your EC2 instance regardless whether the process is running or not, irrespective of thing, because we don't know, we cannot expect the developer when he is going to commit the code, and the process should immediately take place, right? So that is what we make call it as automation, right? So on that case our server keeps running background even if the developer is not committing anything. So when it comes to here, only when the build take place we going to pay the amount. Okay. So if not, there will be no amount, that is completely nil. And we can access, or we can integrate the IAM, so we can restrict the users also. So we can build our builds, that is code build within our private VPC, and manage with IAM and identity service anyway. Fine. And integration, so work seamlessly with AWS code commit. So the code build where we can associate with, so initially obviously either we should start with code commit or the gate, followed by the code build. So what are the build procedure we have to do the automation, the pipeline should be created, right? And also for the deployment, and the third parties repositories like GitHub or the Bitbucket can be integrated with the code build. So this is the features of code build. Fine. And why we use code build, that is especially the AWS code build, so reduce overhead. So you did know, since there won't be any tension, so when the infrastructure or provisioning is completely been managed by the AWS, we don't have to keep something in our mind for maintaining the infrastructure backend, and it's completely within the AWS ecosystem, since Because of this, the security will be more, and you need not to bother about any additional securities to be taken care. Since ideal users for leveraging AWS services for their workflow and flexibility, support various programming language and testing. So it's not restricted to any one of the kind languages. You can go as you want. So same as the Jenkins. On demand builds. So either we can set automatically scales to handle a number of builds simultaneously. So when more than 2 to 3 developers are committing the codes one after the other, so the build will be run continuously. That is, or it could be simultaneously or parallelly, however, based on the committed tab. Fine. Next is secure build. So allow private builds within the VPC and uses the AWS security features for data protections. So if you have your projects to be built, tested under one private network, so we can have it under the VPC by creating the private VPC. It is before, that is without associating your subnets with routable. So on that case, these things are only accessible within the VPC. Fine. And how AWS Code Build works. So we'll try to understand. Fine. So set up build projects. So before we going with this, we'll try to come across the practical things. Fine. So here we have, and let us parallel open the git too. Okay. So fine. So just log into your AWS console management and later on navigate to either code commit or the code build, whatever you want, or you can directly pass developer tool. That is also fine. Anyway, we landed onto the thing. So look here, the developer tool. So even if you provide in the key search, even we can able to access this. So it's under one roof. So if you want to have your repository, you can create it here. Just repository, how exactly the GitHub is going to happen, exactly the same thing, but it is completely private. So there we do have the option called public repository, but when it comes to AWS code commit, we have only the private repositories. And the build, deploy, pipeline, so all this comes under one thing, that is it. We might have been used in the Jenkins, but here we have under the one roof, that is developer tools. So we can create the builds and we can deploy wherever we want. If you want to deploy in your containers, you can have it. Okay, so all these things. So we'll go and try to create one project, that is build project. Okay, so let us pass the things. Fine. So you just name your project, so subject to your things. Okay, so you can make the build available to the public also, but it's not recommended. Fine. So here, the source from where you wanted to integrate your code. So if you want to integrate, that is, if you have uploaded your source code in zip file into this S3 bucket, you can just pull it from there just by providing the bucket things. Okay, or if you have, if you want your repository in code commit, you can, that is GitHub, Git bucket, GitHub Enterprises. It's been most commonly been used in the organization. So when it comes to GitHub, it is for personal use. The organizations won't be using this, since there might be provisioning, maintaining things which could not be managed or which is not feasible for the organization. So they go for the paid version like this. Okay, so as of now, we'll go with GitHub, since AWS code commit is restricted to my free tier account, as I recently been signed up for the AWS. So we'll try to use by using this one. Okay, GitHub. Okay, so now it's showing like, so successfully connected through this. Okay, so previously I have managed the things. Fine. So that is why I just got linked with my GitHub account by choosing the Git. So default source credential. So automatically it will go and thinks the thing. So where it's all stores. Okay. So here in the secret manager, I have already stored my data. Fine. So repository in my GitHub account. So where it is located in my GitHub account. So we need to provide the GitHub URL. So here you just copy the things as it is, no, and always keep remember to refer the holding place. Okay, so as they are provided the domain followed by the username and the repository name, and .git is not required anymore. Fine. And if you are going with the version thing, so we can mention like things. Okay. So and primary source webhook event. So here they are asking, so build type, so single build or batch build. So each every time whenever the developer got commits, the build should be happened. For that, in those cases the single build will happen. So for batch build, so we going to set up like a number of commits. Once after commits, you just go and build all those things like that. Fine. So here provisioning model, so we just go with on demand, so whenever based on requirement. So instead of, if you want to have the lambda function to take over and run your application to develop the package one, we can have it, or we can obviously go with this one also. So by default will be, we can either go with Linux or the Ubuntu things. Fine. Standard things, image version if you have anything, so you can, so always use the latest image for, so that is the better one. So instead of going and looking into the versions and all, it might create a problem. So automatically the role or the permission which are all required for this application to run, so everything is being taken here. Fine. On the code build demo web service role, so if you have already created the permissions which are all required to run this application, where you required multiple services to be accessed, so on those case, if you have already created the role, you can just select this one and you can get it from here only, or else you can directly go and get the new one. Fine, we'll go and select the different one. Okay, next is build specification. So build specification is completely dependent on this infrastructure or provisioning the environment. So how it will be? Okay, so let me show you people. So either it should be written in the YAML file, or we have two options. So either you can write the things and you can directly pull it from the GitHub, or else you can just insert build commands and switch to editor, so you can write it here itself also. So here I will be using, since I will be using the HTML page, simple HTML page, so here it is gone. So initially we start with the version and the phases, so exactly same we used to have it in our CI/CD pipelines of Jenkins. Here there also we do have stages, but here we have phases. Okay, so what are the things required to be installed? So simply to run any web applications, you don't require anything, right? So if you have .html file is more than enough to run your things, right? So if you have anything to be installed, you can just go and get it from the, either from the documentation of code build, that is a build specification, or you can directly opt for any of the open source. It could of bots, it could be Gemini or it could be ChatGPT. So just always be remember and ensure that provide the proper keywords, what exactly wanted and all. So based on that, you will be getting the code, and keep remember one thing to be remember, kindly do modify based on your requirement. Fine, and do not provide any secret credential things even in the chatbot. Though you have within your account, don't provide it. Okay, so once after installation of pre-requirements to run your application, and what is the next step? To next step is to run the application, right? So to run the application, if you are running with any of the Java means we just Java if and jar, right? Like that we used to provide, or the Java build or MVN clean package like that. So if you want to get the clean things, or if you are going with Python, yes. And the post build. So once after build, so what should be done? So here echo deploying the static to S3. So here we are providing like, so once after the building of your application or the software package things, so where do you want to store it? So whether you want to create the Docker image, or whether you want to store it in the repository or the static bucket like things, we can have it or we can deploy it. Artifacts is nothing but the output. So this is going to be, so what they are trying to convey by providing the asterisk followed by the asterisk is, so this is the path where your builds go and stores. Fine. So by providing this, it will going to look in all the folders or the directories or the subdirectories, and it will fetch and it will copy it to the things. Okay. So the correct pattern to include all files. So fine. So we, anyhow we have already linked our GitHub. So we have two options. So either you can copy this and you can paste it over here, or you can just use the build specification file. So store build comments in the YAML formatted build specification file. So just provide the name of the file here, so that it will go and fetch the things. Okay. So like this you can just copy it and you can just paste it also, or else you can just go here and you can switch to editor. You can make the copy things and you can paste it like this too. If you find like your code is not formatted well, you can just come and hit here, so it will be auto formatted. Fine. And batch configuration, so it is where we just come across here, right? That is, and where do you want to store the things? So if you want to store in your S3 artifacts, that can be done, or if you don't want to, just leave it as it is. And if you want to maintain the logs automatically, it will be created. If you don't want any logs, you can just uncheck it. Okay. So next we go and hit the create build project. Fine. So if you want to create any notification, so we can integrate the SNS to this. So why it is, does it really required? So definitely it might require, since you want to keep monitoring your things, right? So what exactly is happening and who is committing what and all things. So whenever the that is the developer commits something, so automatically the build should be happen, right? For all those things we require. So we'll try to hit start build, whether the, let us see the build is successful or not. So here I am not installing any agents like Jenkins, and to install Jenkins here I did not provide or provision any infrastructure. So just I provided the details what I want. So that is code, that is build specification and the GitHub repo link, everything, and I just set up everything manually. Like I did not do each and every configuration things, all those. Just I provided the name of my project and the repo URL followed by the image things. Fine. So here what it is showing. So we going to encounter error. So let us see why it is getting. Okay. So till running command, so entering the phase post build. So till post build it was well and good. So in post build, so when calling the list objects operation, the specified bucket does not exist. So what they are trying to convey means, so once after the build is successful, I am saying in that here. So, so once after the build is successful, what I am mentioned here, just copy that whole project or the packaged software into my S3. Okay, we will try to see whether the S3 bucket is available or not. So the destination should be provided, right? Or else you won't get any storage thing. So it's get confused. So there is no bucket exist. So where should I store and like this? So here, so command did not exist successfully. That is, the demo web app code is not available. The bucket is not available here. So that's the reason it is showing that when calling the list object with operation, that is, it is calling the S3 bucket to list all the objects. So it is looking for the name of the bucket. So the whatever the name we have provided is not available. That is demo web app code is not available in the things. Fine. So set report auto discovery timeout. So it's since it's got exited with the status code one. Okay. So we'll go and try to create the things. So and if you are using different things, that is let me go and show you people. So just create the general purpose bucket, it's not required to have, and whatever the bucket name you provide here, just replace, go and replace here in build, sorry, okay, let me go back. Okay, so build trigger project details, just come to project details here, build specification, hit on edit, just replace name of your bucket, that's it here. Okay, so since I'll be using the same name, I won't be changing anything. So object ownership, let it be disable, and disable or uncheck the public access. Okay, I just going to acknowledge it, and bucket versioning you can have it for later things and all. Okay, just go and create the bucket. Okay, so now the things are good, but one thing, so since we are using the static thing, so we need to enable the static web hosting. Okay, so go and hit edit, just provide the enable thing. So here we will be using the host static things, and provide the home page or the dashboard or the landing page name here. So in most of the things we will be having like index.html only. We can make out here like, here it is my landing page. Okay, so that should be the base one. Just go, and if you have any error HTML, so that is you can have it the exceptional things. Okay, just go and save the changes. So we'll be getting the URL here. So since it's access denied, why it is getting access denied? We have not provided any specification, right? So that's the reason we are getting the access denied. We'll try to have it everything. Okay, let us go back, and 1 second we'll try to build the things. Okay, so let us start the build. So whatever the log we are going to get here is the same log we can watch from the CloudWatch. Okay, so now the build state was successfully completed. So we'll go and look here in the S3 bucket whether my project is available or not. Yes, see, so whatever the things I own in my repository, everything is dumped in my S3 bucket. I did not do anything, right? So if you are running the Java function, just modify the requirement. That's all. It's more than, it's quite easy actually. Okay, so if you are going with Java things, just go to project details and build specification. So required, so to run your Java application, you require two things. One is Java, another one is may want to be installed. So in the installation command, provide those two commands to install on your Ubuntu machine. So how you know Ubuntu? So in environment we choose Ubuntu as our server, right? That's the reason. Okay, and build, what is the build command to, what is the command to build Java applications? So we will be using the maven, right? So maven clean package, so that is just pass that command. So once after building, so where you wanted to store that, so if you want to store all those things in S3, just provide the S3 like this only, or if you wanted to build new Docker image, you can just pass that. Okay, that's quite minimal thing. So now what we did, so we build our application, and whatever the software build package got, we just stored in the S3 bucket. And I know we have accessed it, but we'll try to, since it's showing the access denied, so we need to provide the access here. So probably where in, sorry, in permissions. Okay, so here we need to provide the permissions. Okay, so just here you need to update the bucket policies. So just one second, let me navigate you people from the initial. So just got into your that is, get into your S3 bucket, and here you can make out the tab called permissions, put down, and bucket policies. Just edit it and provide the things. So if you don't know how to provide the access like these things, so you can just policy example, or so go for policy generator. Okay, so the principal, just leave it as it is. What you are providing is all required. So here permission, so we are trying to access, right? So we need to provide the get one, but here we need to choose, okay, choose S3 bucket policy. Here look for get object. Okay, here we have. Okay, and you need to provide the Amazon resource name. You can just get it from here and provide it here, and the principal you can give whatever you want. Okay, so if you want to make it in common, you can just provide like this, anything. So just add statement, generate policy. So here you're going to get the policies like this, and you just copy these things and update it here. That's all, and save changes. Okay, so and let go and refresh. This is how you just get it things. So now my application is all set, that is whatever the build I have done. So it is pulling the code from here, and here I just build the code, and I stored the things in my bucket. Okay, and I'm able to access through the static web, that is from the URL. Okay, so now I want to do this automation thing. So I don't want to keep go and hit the start build button again and again. For all, we need to have the pipeline, right? So automation should be done, right? So we'll go and try to understand that in next session, that is code pipeline. So stay tuned. So once again, so we'll, so anyhow, you people have already come across the visual or the practice things. So how we can create the code build, what are the features we can have, and the build specification, in what script we should write on, whether we can write it or we can create it on premises, or we can create it and upload the file. So we understand all those things, right? So that those the things just I have made into points. Okay, so whether we can come across once again. So initially we need to set up the code build. So for that, we need, from console we just go into navigate to code build and define the source repository. We just define the repository of the code, right? So from where it should pull, and specify the build environment, runtime, operating system. That is where do you want to run, either in your EC2 or the lambda where you want, and provide the build specification. So in build specification, main things what we're going to provide, if we want any software to be installed priorly, we provide those things, and followed by the command to run your application. And the next thing is where do you want to store it post build. So once after, so whether you wanted to create the docker image, or the whether you wanted to store all those things in your s3 bucket where you want, like that. Okay, and run the build. So manually we will be running the build. So once after hitting the run build, so the code build will go and inspect the build specification and run according to the problem what we have provided. And output artifacts, so the build artifacts, example binary or the docker images, are stored in the s3 bucket or other specified location. So where you want, you can provide. And we can manage and maintain the logs from the CloudWatch. Okay, so here is another simple thing. So when you are going with python 1, you can just, so installing the dependency, that is npm install, and commands is just that, and this is the command to run your application or the code to get the package thing. And post build, so echo build, we just provided the details when it got completed. And artifact, so where it shows, that is the build product or the build result will go and store in this one. So here we have provided that is base directory as build. Okay, so we just understand what is code build, and how it is going to work, and how we can able to manage, and how we can able to configure, and how we can able to modify if it requires, and all. So let us understand some similar tools which are used in place of code build also when you are outside the AWS ecosystem. Fine. So commonly used one is Jenkins. So it's open source automation servers widely used for CI/CD pipelines with strong plugin ecosystem. So here also we need to install the plugins. So based on requirements, but here we just go and provide the things whatever we want to install. And another one is GitHub Actions for same tool, GitLab CI/CD things, Circle CI, that is popular code hosted on premises options, and Travis CI. And when it comes to Azure, they have Azure DevOps pipelines things, and TeamCity, many more things. So this is all about the concept of code build, and how we can use, and what are the benefits of using it, and all. So thank you for watching and being the part of this session. In next session, we'll go and try to understand what is code pipeline, and how it is going to helpful, and how we can achieve it, automation things. Okay, let us stay tuned to get updates.